Hi everyone, Ray from Pro String. At it again, once again, at it again. Stringing today today's tutorial would be stringing a tennis racket. Very old school, very very old racket. And this has got to be around 25 years old now. It's one of the hypercarbon rackets, that one of the first kind of light-ish hypercarbon rackets that came out. 95 square inch, guys, so very much smaller head than what we're used to these days, at least for club players, etc. We'll be stringing this at 51 pounds of tension. Keep it a little bit lower than your normal with 100 square inch, which would be probably 54, 55, but with such a small racket head size, strings do tend to get a little bit tighter. We will do 4 knots, 2 pieces, 6 holes to the bottom, 3 loops if you'd like. So we need to always start at the top when a racket has 6 holes at the bottom in the neck or throat of the racket. We'll be using synthetic gut today, just a cheap synthetic gut. Client doesn't want to spend too much on the strings, so we're going for a synthetic gut in a 130 gauge. 4, 5, 6, 7. 7, pull back here. So this should be, it doesn't actually say, or does it say? No, it doesn't say the stringing pattern on this, but that's fine. We can count that real quick. But I know that it's very likely to be 16, 19. Oh, apologies. Dear me, it's been a long week. I definitely know that there's 16 mains, as I just counted against the frame. I had 7 more apart from this one that's already in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then this racket as well, you have the famous power holes, which makes everything a little bit more complicated on top of everything. But let's count our crosses just out of curiosity. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. I was going to say 20 as well. But anyway, I could tell that the holes were kind of closer than normal. But I bit my tongue and went for the 16, 19. But anyway, regardless. Here we go, guys. So, as you saw, find the 2 strings that go up the middle, and then measure your mains. Hold your clamp upwards a little bit, keep it in line with the racket in itself. I don't know the weight of this racket either, by the way. I'm sure you'll find it on Google somewhere if you type in Wilson Hypercarbon. There was a few hypercarbons that came out. There was another one in the color of red, black, and top instead of white, red. That was the 6-1 or 6.2, 6.1, 6.2. I can't remember. That was more of a player's racket. That was the heavier version, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, I was around. I was already playing back in the day. So starting to get older and older, as all of us. But when you remember these rackets from 20, 25 years ago, it means you're no spring chicken anymore. But we carry on, we carry on. I've actually got Yannick Sinner and Tansai Kokonakis playing the Indian Wells. As you guys can see, 3 to each side, 3 mains to each side. String symmetrically, make sure you're not creating more stress for the frame than necessary, and then more than it already goes through. So that was my 4th, 5th and 6th, and then we'll go back to the other side. Again, compensating and treating the frame as best as possible. So these rackets are part of the Hyper Hammer collection, to be exact. It does say Hyper Carbon, but it's actually Hyper Hammer. I think the most appropriate name that they used for it. Oh, what was that? Just heard some cracking. I will go back on the video and see what that is. Very old racket, guys. I don't know what that was. Wow. I heard something, maybe it was something from inside the office or the workshop. Last main string, we're going to put that tension up 15 to 20% extra. So from 51, I've added 15%, which turns out to be 58.6. Under, over, through, and again under and back through my first knot. I think I completely mispronounced. I think it's Tanasi Kokonakis. What did I say? Tansai. That's my Spanish side of my brain kicking in. Reading everything the way it's spelt. Not the case in English. Anyway, last main string again, guys. Put your tension up. 15 to 20%. Tie your knot nice and close. And in the same place that you tied your first one, so that I tied it on my 6th. On my 6th main string. What's happening here? Was that 6 love set already? 6-3, 6 love? It was 6-3, 6. It was 6-3, 3 love a second ago. Interesting. Well, there you have it, guys. Those are your mains. Just gonna tune in to another match. Bear with me just a moment. I do like to watch my tennis, especially when we get into the hard court season and the ATP and WTA swing starts. After the Australian Open, of course. But the Australian Open in Europe is impossible to watch. Impossible. Oh. Pavel Kotov against Alejandro Tabilo, Hugo Grenier, Alexander Muller. Haven't started yet. Okay, Felix Auger seems about to finish. Okay, Zverev or Veverev. Zverev against Christopher O'Connell. Let's tune into that one. .95 square inch. I'm probably just gonna leave myself 7. Full length of the racket, guys. Remember, full length. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so 7 and a bit, just to be safe. This string stretches a lot. Find yourself an anchor string, doing it on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5th, on my 5th main string. Nice drop shot, beautiful hands. Some nice hands there from O'Connell. The Aussie, Australian, isn't he? I believe. As you can see, always pulling down our string on the crosses. Make sure there's no damage done to our main strings. If you pull across too quick, you may encounter some damaging of the strings on your mains, which will not look good. And may lose a client or encourage them to go elsewhere. So be very careful when you're pulling across the cross strings. Alright, the grommets might suggest that I should start from a certain side. So that's out, that's in, out, in, out, in. Well, it looks exactly the same really. It just might be more marked. I mean, I've done it correctly in the end, but it's very hard to tell where you should start. There's slightly more indent, but I don't know if that's, I don't know if you guys can see, but there's slightly more indent on some of the grommets, which suggests that's where the loop should go. So the way the string sets on the grommet. But it's very, very, very minimal. And again, I don't know if that's just from such an old racket where it's kind of set the grommet in a different, bit of a different, I don't know how to say it, maybe different color even, slightly stronger color, but maybe. Have a look on your racket though before you start the crosses. Have a look and see what you guys can see from your side. I would suggest that you should start. It's hard to say because it's exactly the same. There's nothing that tells you to do it. But I mean, I'm pretty sure that would be okay to start from either side here. But you may think the same or not. But just have a little look where you might want to start your start knot to go ahead with the crosses. It's left me a bit puzzled. Looks incredibly similar. But I think you should probably start. It's going to be hard to tell you where to start because this paint job on this racket is exactly the same bottom to top. It's even got the little R's from the patents. TM trademark. TM is got exactly the same. There's arrows, 2 arrows here, there. Hypercarbon. Also hypercarbon, so even if I told you where to start, it would be absolutely pointless because what you need to do is look at the grommet and see where the loop is. If you think that the string should sit on one side or the other, then you need to count like I did before. You go out, in, and you just follow it down and around until you can find a nice space here, which would suggest that the string should loop either on this side or the opposite side. Don't want to confuse you much. Obviously that's not my intention, but on this racket, I do think I'm about 60 or 70% sure you need to start on one side or the other. or again, if it's not the case, then it's just surely that the racket's been, you know, it's quite old and the way the string's been sat before has left the marking on the grommet. Maybe it's just that. But like I said, it's just like a slightly more engraved looking grommet to where maybe the strings were sat before. Again, very old frame, so maybe that's what it is. But don't stress out about it too much, because it won't make much of a difference, at least on this racket. There's nothing that suggests that, at least on this racket. Okay, I can give you a little bit of an idea what side you should probably start on. You know, as long as all the rackets were made the same, you have a side where you have all your tension, the recommended tension, the head size, and a couple other stuff. It says use Wilson sensation string and just string recommendation. So you want to tie your knot on the opposite side. So the side where it just says hypercarbon, ultimate power, lightness and strength. Tie your knot on that side. Whichever side you put your racket on the machine, doesn't matter how you put the racket up, this way round or upside down, it doesn't matter, it's irrelevant. And that goes with all rackets actually. So yeah, just FYI, if you do want to do it exactly the same way I'm doing it, then the knot goes on the side I just mentioned, where it says ultimate power, lightness and strength. So we're on the power holes, guys. These annoying little things, because you can't see where the string exactly goes through, which is fine. Sometimes if it doesn't just go through nicely, you may just have to get down a little bit, see where the hole is. I mean, we all know where it is, but sometimes getting the string through might be a bit trickier than we think. And you'll probably see that with myself. I doubt I'll get them through on the first try. I think there's a couple holes ago, I didn't manage to get it that easy. I have strung many of these rackets in the past, and as you can see, they're still around, they're still floating around. This is pretty much a classic now. Okay, so this is, I've just seen the number on it. I did think, this is the Wilson Hyper Carbon Hammer 5.3. It's just hidden beneath. Hyper Carbon 5.3. You guys are asking yourself, why am I weaving two strings always? This one and the next one, it's called weaving one ahead or one in front. Makes this weave that I'm doing now easier. So if you're just doing one at a time, it's always trickier to get that next string through. So again, this one makes life a lot easier. A few important points to take away from this video. Pull your string down, and when you're tightening your string, hold your string in place. Don't let it come down. We don't want sloppy strings. We want the strings, when we finish our stringing, we want all of our strings to be not as straight as possible. If you're moving your strings around a lot afterwards, when you finish the racket, you're at risk of losing quite a bit of tension. The more you're having to move them, the more tension that will be lost. Missed it. Alright, this guy's playing with a good tactic against Zverev. Lots of drop shots. Big guys, drop shot them. Why not? Alright guys, well, we're coming to an end in the next couple of minutes probably. Just remember, when you're putting your racket on the machine, don't apply too much pressure to the knobs. These are the knobs, the things that open and close your mounting system pretty much. I'll show you guys in a minute what I'm trying to do. I could just go over it easily, maybe that's just the best option. Yeah, that's holding it there. Never mind. No need to show you guys anything because these grommets are old school grommets and they have little pieces of plastic, let's say, which keeps the strings nicely in place, as you can see here. That's how you should make sure there's no crossover of strings. As you can see, this next string that I'm about to pull will sit nice and flush against the grommet. What I was thinking to go in between, let's see how this looks. Let's see, you can see it here. This should sit nicely. Yeah, that looks good, that's okay. I was thinking to go in between the other two. No need to complicate life and use the awl and risk scratching the string or popping the string. There's not much space here, but that's this is the problem with the older kind of frames. They weren't that well thought out, maybe, perhaps, to what they are today. So this grommet here is pretty much touching the string, but I don't have much other option or any other option. There you have it, guys. That looks okay there, looks nice and professional. And here, lots going on here though. Looks less neat than the other side, but hey, that's alright. Maybe it should have gone over. Anyway, we still would have had to tie the knot and it still would have looked a bit messy. Excuse me. Alright guys, I'm happy with that. Old racket, different times. Not a bad frame for a club player, let's say. Sounds pretty tight for 51. Anyway guys, straighten up your strings. If you struggle to get your racket off the machine, as you just saw, the racket just popped off the machine. nice and easy as soon as I released all the fixtures. There you have it. I'll add a little sticker on the inside so they know what string I used, what tension, what date, and who strung their racket, in case they want to come back and have something similar done next time. Right guys, that's what it looks like. Thank you very much for tuning in, and hopefully you'll have taken something positive away from that video today. Until the next racket, happy stringing guys. Take care, bye bye.